Okay, so hi, my name is Miss MMM, and welcome to the Miss MMM. So I did notice that a lot of YouTubers that I enjoy have recently decided to blog a lot for October, and I was thinking I'd like to do something like that, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then I'm like, oh, I have not watched a lot of horror movies in quite a while. I used to watch them all the time. There was a year when I was younger where that was the only type of movie I would watch. And I'm just like, it's October. Halloween is my favorite holiday. Why am I not watching any horror movies? So I thought I will try to watch as many horror movies as possible and review them. Obviously, I'm starting a few days into the month. Now, yesterday, I went on Netflix. They have a lot of regular and B movies on there. And I thought, what do they have? So, the first thing that I spotted that looked pretty decent to me was called A Good Marriage. It came out a couple years ago. I want to say it said 2014. What caught my eye about this was it said it was based on a Stephen King story. I just checked that out. It was based on the story, that story published in his collection Full Dark No Stars from 2010. And I'm a big Stephen King fan. Well, not like crazy big where I've read everything by Stephen King, but I've read a lot of it, and I used to be I used to keep very up to date with that. So, and then the other thing I noticed is that it stars Anthony LaPaglia and Joan Allen, who are really great actors. In the 90s, I watched them in a ton of stuff. Things that I remember the most are like Joan Allen being so great in Pleasantville, and Anthony LaPaglia, obviously, as the store owner in Empire Records. And I think since then, he's sort of fallen into one of those crime procedural shows, so I never see him anymore. So it was really cool to see him. So this movie was not great. Okay, it's based on a short story. It's an hour and 42 minutes. I don't think it needs to be an hour and 42 minutes. It's not like that is an unreasonable time for a movie. It's pretty standard. But there's an old quote by Roger Ebert, and it's something like, a good movie can never be too long, and a bad movie can never be too short. And I don't think that's always true, but in some cases I'm just like, shorten this, please. And this is definitely one of those times. I felt like you could have told the story more quickly. And I don't know. There were a lot of problems. Okay, so the basic premise is that there's this well-to-do couple. They've been married for years, many years. I think it's 25. And they're kind of settled into their routine. They do show you a little bit in the beginning. They're having a dinner party with some local neighbors, and one of their friends is sort of drunk, and she's talking about like a missing persons case for some girl who's been like kidnapped and or possibly murdered. And the first issue here is that like I said, I love those actors, but I didn't find their characters as compelling as I wanted. And I know they were trying to like humanize them and make you think, oh, they're like me, or they have a really good marriage, or they really like each other. Because it starts out, I think it's their anniversary or his birthday or something, and after the party, like I think it's the same day, they have sex, and then they have like a couple cute little conversations, and it shows like they have the hobby that they mutually share of change collecting, coin collecting, whatever. And like I said, I think this is all supposed to like be setting it up how great their relationship is, how they're relatable, but I just like found it really flat, and so that's a problem. So then you get into the actual story here, which is that he goes away on some kind of business trip, and while he's gone, like right after he leaves, um she ends up going out like and finding his stuff, like how guys have like a man cave or whatever. And he has like a box, and it has all this stuff about these missing girls, like serial killer stuff. Like here's like pictures and like pieces of stuff they owned, and I think there's newspaper clippings, whatever. And then like she looks it up, and she's like having this thing like, oh my god, my husband's a murderer. And then they do these things like a few times with her where she's like imagining things that aren't really happening. And I think it's supposed to be really, attention grabbing and suspenseful, but it's not. Like, when it first happens, I'm just like, well, that's obviously fake. Like, she's imagining he's there and he's not. And then later, I mean, they did get me with one of them where I wasn't sure if it was happening or not. But then there's an instance where you're honestly not sure what's happening. And I think that's just sort of like poor directing or something. And then it's like how he comes back and she can, like, well, he confronts her because he figures it out. And he just thinks, like, their marriage is going to be all hunky-dory. And it was kind of cool to see him do, like, that weird smarmy murder thing. But also, I didn't fully believe him as a murderer, so that's a problem. And then it gets to, like, what would you do? Like, and then, spoiler alert, because this is probably the main thing that happens in the movie. Like, not a lot of stuff happens. And also, like I said, there's a party in the beginning, but there's not a lot of characters in this, so it sort of comes out like a play. So, like I said, spoilers. He comes, one day, she gets him drunk, and then she pushes him down the stairs, like, out of nowhere. And I would understand if it was out of nowhere to him, but the fact that the audience has no idea she's gonna do this, and all of a sudden her character just seems like batshit crazy, like, people will, like, he said some stuff earlier where he's threatening her, like, people will not know, but they'll assume that you know all about this. You'll have to move. You'll have to give up your penny store or whatever. It's, like, so ludicrous. You could definitely go tell the police that you just found out your husband's a murderer. And instead of just murdering him. Like, it was ridiculous. And then there's, like, an old cop who's bored. And also the murder was pretty gross. Not scary, but sort of gross. And then there's this old cop who's sort of investigating her, but he's not a cop anymore. He's, like, retired. And then he's dying, which, out of nowhere. I mean, he's old, but that doesn't mean he's gonna die. And so it's like she can unburden herself and he can unburden himself. And it's just, it's not cohesive. There are just so many problems with this movie. Out of 5, I would give it a 2. Just because it does have good actors. But that's about it. Like I said, it doesn't need to be this long. It has all sorts of pacing and directorial problems. And with all of the stuff that you could be watching, I'm surprised that I didn't quit watching the movie. I think mainly I didn't quit watching it because I was like, okay, I'll review this. I had to stop in the middle because I was doing something, and then I didn't really want to go back to it when I had to finish it. So that tells you something right there. So it's on Netflix right now. Or I also saw when I was checking it out on IMDb that it is available for rental on Amazon for $1.99. So if you just have to see it, those are a couple ways you can watch it. But I do not recommend this movie. And let me know if there's anything you want me to review this month. It does not have to be on one of the streaming channels, but I do have Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu. So keep that in mind. Also, like, share, subscribe, and let me know below if you've seen the movie and what you think. Or something else besides just horror movies. If you've seen anything with Anthony LaPaglia in it lately that you really like, let me know.